Yes. Happy morning, children. Hope you all are doing good and safe. Okay. So, in the last class, we have studied about the same chapter, that is Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. So, we have understood what are the concepts we have understood, children. So, how this Russian Revolution started and what happened there, and later Bolshevik Party, Menshevik Party, Lenin, April thesis, all this concept we have studied. Yes or no? And the February Revolution, after February Revolution, what happened, and then later we have seen about the October Revolution also. And the next we are going to see about after the October Revolution, what are the changes happened? Okay, yeah, excuse me. What are the changes happened after the October Revolution? So as we have seen what happened, this Bolsheviks, what were their main idea? As we know, they were the socialist people. They were supporting for the social welfare of the country. Yes or no, children? What was the main idea of this Lenin? That everyone should be treated equally and rights should be given to everyone. There should not be any discrimination among the people. That was the main idea. So what happened after this October Revolution? They started like private property abolished. That means the individual property that has been abolished. The private property has been abolished and that has been taken over by the government. Lands made public property. So the maximum whatever the land was available, that has made as a public property, so that everyone can use that. So like that they made it as a public property. Industries and banks were nationalized. So this we can understand, this is what the demand of this Lenin, that is what we have studied in the April thesis. What, yes or no, children? There was a 3 demands. So the private property has to be abolished, industries and the bank should be nationalized, and the war should come to an end. So out of that what happened? The private property has been abolished and then industries and the banks were also nationalized, and then large houses partitioned among workers. So what happens, as we seen that there was a huge the problems faced by this workers. Yes or no, the industrial workers. So for them also what happened, they started to provide some the facilities, the large houses, they started to partition that among the workers and they started to provide for them. Aristocratic titles were abolished. So whatever the aristocratic, the titles they had earlier, so that also had been abolished. Hope you guys are understanding, no, children? After this October Revolution, what are all the changes? So what are the changes, children? The private property has been abolished, land made public, banks and the industries were nationalized, and they started to provide some facilities to the workers, and the aristocratic titles started to abolished. Okay, and the next they started to introduce some new rules. So what are those new rules? New uniform for officials and the army has been introduced. So they started to introduce some new rules. They started to give some new uniform to the officials of the government and even for the army. And how they have did is, it is one of the biggest thing you have to understand, children. So they made a fashion show for that, and through that they have selected. So this is a cap. So that is one of the award-winning cap through that fashion show, and they adopted this one. Okay, and Soviet hat, that has been adopted. Okay, hope you guys are understanding, right? Some new rules also they started to adopt. Yes. November 1917, elections conducted to the Constituent Assembly. So as we have seen that last time they had a the Constituent Assembly, but they did not conduct any of the, even with the the provisional government also, the elections were not happened, and slowly this Bolsheviks entered to that and they destroyed everything, And in the year of 1917 November, they started to have elections. Assembly rejected Bolshevik measures and Lenin dismissed the assembly in January 1918. So here we have to understand, children, what happened that time. This, even though the Bolsheviks were very powerful and many people were supporting this Bolsheviks and the Lenin, but still they did not win in the election. This constituent election, assembly election, they did not win. So that is the reason what happened. He was very powerful and he did not let the elected members to form the constituent assembly. What he made? He rejected even that assembly, and the Bolshevik measures has been rejected that, and the Lenin dismissed the assembly in the year of 1918 January. And Bolsheviks made peace with Germany in March 1918. So here we have to understand, children, the many people of Russia, they started to revolt against the king Tsar Nicholas II. Is one of the main reason was he was they were thinking that he is into favor of the German. But now what the Bolsheviks are doing, even they had a peace treaty with this German in the year of the 1918 March, and Russia became the one party state, the single party state. Okay, so the Lenin dismissed the constituent assembly and there will be no other constituent assembly. The only one single party will be there for the country. Okay, so that's the reason Russia started to follow the single party, that is a one party state. Yes. And the new ideas, what are the other new ideas they started to introduce? We can see that trade unions kept under party control. This we have to understand, children. What was the Lenin's idea earlier? It has to be socialist, everyone has to be free. But slowly what happened, even they started to become like a kind of dictatorship. Not exactly, but it's a kind of dictatorship. So what happened, trade unions has to be under the control of this party, that is a single party. And later OGPU and NKVD created, it's like a secret police. Children, you have to understand, this is a secret police. That means what they will be doing, what is the work of them? So they will be like a secret, they will be in the civil dress and they will be among the people only, the public only, and they will be observing them. So if any people or any person is talking or speaking against to the Bolshevik party or the party, so what they'll be doing, the Russian the Communist Party, so they will be punished and they will be put into the jail. So that is what the work of this secret police. And punished those who criticized the Bolshevik. That's what just now I explained. So they will be observing the people and they will be punished those who criticize the Bolshevik. And many young artists and the writers rallied to the party. So the many young, the artists, writers, those people rallied to the party, led the experiments in arts and the architecture. So they started to do some experiments in the arts and even in the architectures also. Okay. Yes. So now you people started to understand that even the Bolsheviks, the main idea of this Bolsheviks in the earlier was the socialist country or the socialist nature. But later what happened? Slowly it started to change. So what happens? Do you think the people will be quiet? Later what happened? They started with the civil war. What do you mean by civil war? There will be a war among the people themselves itself. Okay, so people started to have a war among themselves itself. See here, the land redistribution ordered by Bolsheviks. So what happens, they were as I told you, people, children, the farmers are the peasants of this Russia. They are not very quiet people. Okay, as we have seen, they were killing the landlords and they were taking the land. They were grabbing it. So again they ordered to redistribute the land, and then Russian army began to break up. So what happens here? Why this Russian army started to break up? Because many of the peasants were there in the Russian army. So when this land redistribution order has been passed by this Bolsheviks, many peasants who were there in the army, they started to leave the army and they started to move back to their villages, and they wanted to be again as a peasants. They don't want to be anymore to be as a army people. Okay, and peasants turned soldiers went home for the redistribution. So that's what here they are telling children. Peasants, they are the farmers who turned as a soldiers. So at the time of there was a huge demand for the this soldiers that when the time of war. So that's the reason who were very strong and all, they were taking them to army. So those soldiers, they started to go back to their home because they wanted to get the land, redistribution of the land. Non-Bolshevik socialists, liberals and the pro-Tsarists criticized the Bolsheviks uprising. So what happens? The people who were opposing this, the Bolshevik people, that is non-Bolshevik socialists. There were the socialists who are not supporting the Bolshevik. Okay, those people and the liberals, along with that the pro-Tsarists. Pro-Tsarists means whom? The people like a conservatives. That means they were supporting to the same old methods. They were supporting to the King Tsar. Okay, those people started to criticize the Bolshevik uprising. So whatever the measures they are taking, is it going to helpful for the society? Is it known as a socialist society? So they started to criticize the ideas or uprising of this Bolsheviks. Hope you guys are understanding, no children? So this Bolsheviks announced the land redistribution. That's the reason army started to break up. Okay. And the next thing, organized troops to fight Bolsheviks. So what happened? They themselves started to make a groups. Okay, within a country only they started to make a groups. So here what happened? This Bolsheviks were known as the Reds. They started to give the colors for the identification. This Bolsheviks known as known for the red color, and later Russia controlled by Greens, that is the socialist revolutionaries. They are the socialist revolutionaries. And the whites, who are the whites? This conservative peoples, the people who were supporting for this Tsar, same autocracy should be followed, monarchy should be there. So those people. Hope you guys are understanding, right? So they made they started to represent them with the three colors. One, it is a red. Red is a Bolsheviks. And the next, it is a green. Green is a socialist revolutionaries. And who are the whites? They are the white people who are like they were supporting this, the same old methodology of a autocracy. Okay. And later what happened? Support to greens and whites. Who started to support? See, the countries that supported greens and whites in the USSR against socialism. So later what happened? This support to the greens and the whites, they started to get the support from the USSR. Okay, that is against the socialism. Why it's against the socialism? See here. Support to greens and whites. The countries worried about the whatever the changes which was happening in the Russia, the growth of socialism in Russia. So that is the reason they thought most probably the same thing may continue to their countries also. They were very scared of that and they started to support this greens and whites. Okay, which are those countries? America, Britain, France and the Japan. America, Britain